Yeah, and you would think the truth was toxic, the way they handle information. And I'm talking about we know who they are, the government, the corporation, it could be our neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
You would think the truth was toxic, the way they handle information. The way information is presented to us, it's like they were spoon-feeding us. We have been living on a diet of lies. We are starving for the truth. Words to walk about within you. Think about this. John 4, verse 21. They that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. When you become scriptural, you become spiritual. And I can't tell you how many people have claimed to know Christ, and they do the best. I think there's the leeway because of sinful ignorance, but we have an obligation to be informed. And like I say, I had gotten in my Bible, I had gotten the call from the Lord, and it was in the Scriptures. I was reading the Scriptures, and it was about being a watchman. And that from that day forth, I took it really seriously, because it wasn't long after 911 when I realized that nothing will be the same from that day forward. It was just it shook me in my boots.
Well, I think most of America was shook on that day too, as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what was 9/11 the turning point for you as far as how long have you been a Christian?
Actually, my grandmother witnessed to me when I was 12. Mm-hmm. And you know how she did it was, she just made it real. She just lived it. She walked it. She talked it. And of course my grandfather, he loved walking around singing. And they were joyful people. And because the way that I was forced to go to church, and I just rebelled against it. I didn't. I have a self-will, and I want to love the Lord, love God, this unknowing God that I didn't know as a kid. I wanted to know Him. Maybe He found me. I found Him.
Yeah. That's interesting. So looking back now at your, and I always curious about people when they got saved and how they look back at their lives before. But so looking back now at as an adult now and being called by God to be this watchman, as you said, that what about your grandparents' life? Do you really, because they were your example, the living example on earth? What about their life? Maybe if you could point out just maybe one or two parts that really you think showed to be a good example of a Christian.
Understanding compassion. I was the child, the son, because my mother was an only child.
Mm-hmm.
But I was the son she always wanted. So I was a fulfillment for her. That she always wanted a son.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we said a prayer every night. She would come to my bedside, and we would say a prayer. And and we would say the Lord's Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you, it was there's the beauty in the simplicity of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always used that as a. And then when she died, she was riddled with cancer, and she never murmured, complained. She had this peace about her, and this walk that we have. When Jesus says, like in Galatians, that He abides in us, and we abide in Him. You notice how it's that reciprocity, where it's back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, and today I see people testing me all the time, and I all I have to do is just I wave, I smile, I pray for them. I pray for them, and that's what people should do. When I listened to you, and you were quivering, and when you said you bottomed out, and I said, praise the Lord, because I'll tell you, and my family, we're hard-working family, and each one of us is, accomplished in one way or another, and I lost everything material, and I just thank the Lord. You know why? Because I had to be stripped of all of that, because I was tethered to all this stuff. I was chasing money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a beer. It's a bottomless pit. You won't find the answer in the bottom of that bottle.
Well, I tell you what, you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more. Our society has programmed us, or desires to program us. Those of us who are broken away, they program us to want to be counted successful. We must have a lot of stuff. Must have these fancy cars with these nice shiny rims, and we need to have computers and fancy phones and so forth and so on as it goes on, and jewelry and watches and all the designer clothes and so forth and so on. And they program us to think that we cannot be satisfied or be successful in life unless we are hoarded with materialistic things. And I have a similar. I share that experience with you. That again, when I was stripped of everything, that's when I became closest to God.
Yes, amen.
Because what else? God lets you know. Hey, you have nothing. You have really nothing of any value except for me. And that's something that I've tried to share with as many people as I can. That truly without God, you cannot accomplish anything great in this world. And it's just our whole society has just turned to a me type attitude. And now you're talking about your grandmother who died of cancer. My mother died of cancer, had ovarian cancer, and a very, very rough battle with that, as most cancer patients, do experience rough battles. And we weren't Christians at the time, and I wasn't a Christian until after my mother passed away. But I noticed she had told me, and I thought back to these things, that she never complained. She had a peace about the whole experience that I couldn't fathom, could not understand. And so I remember asking her one day, I said, Mom, you're dying. You're dying. And she goes, yes, honey, I know. And I said, and you always smile. I've never heard you say a harsh word, never complained about. My mom went through experimental treatments back then. This was courses she's been gone for, it'll be 10 years next year. And she went through all kinds of treatments that didn't work. And they were really, very, very, very tough and tolling on the body and the mind. And but anyway, I asked her one day, I said, Mom, how do you do this? She says, well, I made my peace with God, and we talk every day. And of course, not being a Christian, and if you're not a Christian, you can't understand that. You really have no concept of what that means, to have a daily relationship with the Lord. You just cannot understand that until you have that same relationship with the Lord. And it's amazing to me, and the whole reason I brought all that up was the amazing thing to me is that when it all boils down to everything, it's all we need is God. It's all we need is God.
And you couldn't see God through all the stuff.
Right. Absolutely. And it's amazing how you get people, Lord, that will go through amazing trials. I mean, some of them, and end up being some of the most, the last things they go through in life are horrifying trials. As example of my mother, an example of your grandmother, that and they go out and they go through the whole thing to the very end, to when God calls them home with a smile on their face and with no regrets. And you get to see people that are not of the way. You got people who are not Christian, that that, or even some called so-called